Hi, my name is Tom Glannon, and I like to read poetry aloud. This is supposed to be relationship poetry, and this involves a poet who had quite a few relationships. I'm going to read a poem by Jeff Worley called Cheryl Lee, I think her name was, where he talks about a time when he was in his 20s, very interested in craft beer, baseball, the Brooklyn Dodgers, liberal Democrats like Hubert Humphrey, and very attractive women, but not in that order. Now he's in his late 60s, working on a journal, happily married, but he apparently had quite an active romantic life when he was younger. In fact, he says he felt he had to invent an illness named Romersky syndrome because he found it so hard to break up with a woman when he wasn't in love with her anymore. This illness supposedly involved a lot of itching and scratching. It could be contagious. He'd tell the woman this and she'd usually leave him. The strategy worked fine most of the time until he dated a married Lou who protested when he mentioned this Romersky syndrome to him. But Jeff, she said, there's an alternative clinic in California that uses herbs, fasting, crystals, and meditation. They could certainly cure it. And it didn't work either when he tried to break up with another young woman using the Romersky syndrome ploy. When he told her, she yelled at him, "What the hell are you talking about? There's no Romersky syndrome, you miserable liar." He forgot that she was a second-year medical student. Here's another poem about July 20th, 1969, the first day that man ever walked on the moon. 1 billion people watched it live on television. Was he glued to his television set, waiting to hear Neil Armstrong say, "That's one small step for man, one giant step for mankind"? No, he was lying naked on his van with his girlfriend, observing the beauties of her body. This brings us to the current poem, where I imagine him telling the story maybe after 2 beers at a college faculty party, standing in the corner with a bunch of old married men with bad knees and tenure. Maybe the most important reference you need to know to appreciate this poem is the reputation of Black Label beer. Our liquor store up at Teal Square doesn't even carry it anymore, but a few years ago, I went into that liquor store and put a 6-pack of Black Label on the counter in front of the owner. Very nice old man who knew I didn't know much about alcohol because I almost never came into his store. And he'd see me on the sidewalk with a gallon of 1% milk. "Sir," he said, "I'd be glad to sell you that beer, but I have to tell you one thing about it. This is the worst goddamn beer in the place." "Thanks," I said, "but we're not going to drink it. My wife has a big flower garden. She uses it to knock off the slug." "Oh," he said, "it'd be good for that." So it would be nice if people knew about, for this poem, the Brooklyn Dodgers who won the World Series in 1955 after years and years and years of struggling against the Yankees and constantly losing. Okay, so this is called Cheryl Lee, I think her name was, Wichita, Kansas, 1968. "I went to bed once with a woman I didn't love. Didn't even like, because she could name every Brooklyn Dodger on the 55 team. I overlooked the Nixon button that clasped her cleavage, and the fact that she drank Black Label in cans. In her bedroom, our clothes floated off like ghosts in dim lamplight. She chanted, "Reese Robinson Snyder." I tossed back, "Campanella Hodges Farillo." "Newcomb Erskine," she breathed into my ear. "Padres Lowe's," I breathed back, and then we went into the bullpen for Spooner, Levine, and Roba. But by the time we got to the end of the dugout bench, Bob Borkowski slumped hopelessly in the shadows. She realized she couldn't do it after all. Not with somebody whose car sported a Humphrey sticker, somebody who opened the barroom window and poured her black label into the weeds. So I didn't slide home safely like Robinson game one of the World Series. Instead, I found myself out in her driveway, finished for the night with the national pastime, and drove home with the boys of summer in the dawn's early light. The second poem is by Tony Holman. It's called "Summer in a Small Town," and it's just a kind of beautiful picture of what it's like to be on vacation in a small town for a while. Okay, so he comes from a military family. He's lived all over the country. He now lives in Houston, Texas, a city of more than 6 million people. He has 7 daughters, and the poem is like a small meditation on the quiet pleasures of a summer vacation. Notice how just about everything in the poem deals with pleasure, fun, diversion, no crime, no violence, no pressure, no crowds. Summer in a small town. Yes, the young mothers are beautiful, with all the self-acceptance of exhaustion, still dazed from their great outpouring, pushing their strollers along the public river walk. And the day is also beautiful. The replica 19th century paddle wheeler, perpetually moored in the city wharf, with its glassed-in bar and grill for the lunch and cocktail seekers who come for the Mark Twain happy hour, which lasts as long as the Mississippi. This is the kind of town where the rush hour traffic halts to let 3 wild turkeys cross the road. And when the high school music teacher retires after 30 years, the movie marquee says, "Thanks, Mr. Biddleman." And the whole town comes to hear the tuba solos of old students. Summer, when the living is easy and we store a pleasure in our bodies like fat, like Eskimos, for the coming season of privation. All August, the Ferris wheel will turn in a little amusement park, and screaming teenage girls will jump into the river with their clothes on, right next to the "no swimming" sign, trying to cool the heat inside the small towns of their bodies, for which they have no words, obedient to the voice inside which tells them, "Now, steal pleasure."